travelers, and welcome to another episode of the Virgin Stars Podcast 5th season. Be sure to like and subscribe. Enjoy this very special interview because Robin Curtis boards the mothership. You know her as Lieutenant Saavik in Star Trek 3 and 4. Now come aboard to go traversing the stars. Hi, Miss Curtis. Thank you so much for coming to the Virgin Stars Podcast.
Well, hi, Jeff. It's great to be here. Thank you for asking me out.
I will point out this is one of the great honors of doing my show, and I'm so happy to get to talk with you. And it's a big deal for me. I hope you recognize that.
Thank you, sweetheart. Thank you. Certainly it's not lost on me. The fact that it's been, oh gosh, how many years? 41 years, 42 since we shot the movie, 41 since it was released. Jeff, that there's still interest. Because sometimes you think to yourself, well, who the heck wants to talk to old Robin Curtis in upstate New York in a little town called Casanova? But they still do. And so thank you. I'm honored, and it's a privilege.
Well, one thing that I read recently, and I did an interview just recently, was a book called Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock, The Making of a Classic Film by John Maria Jose Tenuto. And you are the foreword of the book, and was incredible. That's what I thought to myself. I got to talk to you again and talk about that.
Honestly, I've known this couple throughout the decades, and I'm sad now that I didn't get to know them better through the years. I tend to be a little shy at Star Trek conventions. I know that might not seem logical, given what people know about me and my personality, but I am a little shy around people. I never had a conversation with Gene Roddenberry. I'm so embarrassed to say. And similarly with the Tenutos, I just thought, well, oh God, what am I going to be able to talk with them about with any, sense of intelligence? And lo and behold, they did this long interview with me for the book, for the making of Star Trek 3. And I learned, God, they're scholars, really, when it comes to the world of Star Trek. Their research is impeccable. I learned things from them that I never knew all these years, and I was honored. I mean, really, I can't tell you how honored I was that they asked me to make the opening tribute forward, if you will. And it gave me a chance, just gave me a chance to say what officially and, on the page and forever memorialized what Star Trek 3 meant to me, and specifically what Leonard Nimoy and Harv Bennett meant to me. It was just a coincidence that they both left this earth plane within days of each other. And I remember when that happened, Jeff, just like the enormity of it for me, who those two men were. Both I felt, elegant, classy men. Now, I'm speaking just from my experience. I'm sure that they, you know, might have been impolite once in their lives or offended somebody once in their lives, or maybe they weren't the best husbands and fathers and brothers and sons, whatever. But where I was concerned, they were lovely and generous and kind. And when Hollywood can be so rough-edged sometimes, and with barbed wire, it was nice. It was so nice to have two gentlemen make such a difference in my life.
Now, the cool thing when I having been able to read the book by the students, I got to interview them, and I mentioned to them that they are basically torchbearers of the history of Star Trek now by having written these books and doing all the research. And the more I thought about it I read the book, is that you as well are now one of the torchbearers of that history, because you were there, you had the insight that many people now don't have because of as history has gone, obviously. Did it hit you when you were giving the interview and writing the foreword of how important your position now is to act as voice for those films, the third and fourth?
Well, yes, it did. It did strike me rather stunningly, actually. That for instance, I didn't know that as fabulous as Kirsty's portrayal was of the character, that there was some concern, I guess, about her professional abilities as an actress, etc. Again, I'm not saying that to, gosh almighty, I'm not saying that to besmirch her in any way. Not at all. But I learned from the Tenutos that there were some concerns, and that my training and my education and my experience on stage made a difference. And I
Mm.
remember, Jeff, when you go into a major motion picture studio and you meet the director one on one, right? This is already a shocking, unusual thing to have happen. I remember putting my resume in front of him and I just thought, oh God, it's so thin, and
Yeah.
actors have a tendency to list every play that they did in high school and then every musical they did in college and then summer theater. And you've got this resume padded with a lot of theater. And Leonard was so sweet about it. And so he's like, so tell me about, you know, Nancy and in Oliver and Aldunza in Man of La Mancha. And I said, well, any altos or mezzo soprano who performs in musical theater will eventually play one of the great whores. A woman, a wench, a prostitute, a whore,
Yeah.
whatever. She's downtrodden and she's finding her way back to her center. And anyway, I apparently that meant something. That meant
Yeah.
something that this little hayseed from upstate New York couldn't know in the moment
Right.
when it happened. But the Tenutos, kind of at least suggested that that was what was happening back then, and I did take it very seriously. I understood that there was some playfulness on the set with Kirsty and Merritt, but where I was concerned, I was serious as a heart attack. I probably was frustrating to Merritt because he was such a consummate professional and an amazing actor. But when he wanted to goof around, I wasn't having any of it. Because actors, on sets there's a lot of downtime. It's
Right.
your wait. And so that's why acting families get to know one another so well and feel as though they've become a family by the end of the 2 month or 3 month shoot. But yeah, when Merritt wanted to sing and dance during breaks, I was just a complete party pooper. Because I felt that I never wanted Leonard to look over on the soundstage, floor in that space and see me goofing around.
Mm.
I wanted him to always know I was serious, I was dedicated and highly insecure. and and I was relying on him for his guidance. And yeah, I just didn't want him to think for a second that anything else was going to be okay.
Well, I will say this and I mean this 100% sincere and not brown nosing. To me, you are the Saavik, Lieutenant Saavik. I think your performance to me felt more like a genuine Vulcan than Ali's. Nothing against disparage the dead, but you to me was how I always would want Saavik to be. I think you were the best version of it, in my opinion.
Well, thank you. Thank you. You know what's wonderful about this beautiful world? There's room enough for everybody and to appreciate both performances, certainly. And I also would, stress, and I know those of you out there who appreciate the franchise know this already. The creation of a character is very much the collaboration of the actor and the director very often, or it could be the writer, or it could
Mm.
be the fellow actors and how the context in which you see this character and how people react to them. So it's a bit of a combination of things, and I completely admire and respect that Nicholas Meyer and Kirstie Alley created one interpretation, and that when I came on board, Leonard Nimoy had his idea of the direction this character should go in, and I think whatever. I just simply followed his lead.
Now,
So,
as the theme of this interview is going to end going, so there's going to be a lot of references to Tenuto's book because that inspired a lot of the questions I'm going to have for you because I found so much. For those who don't know, we spoke prior some years ago, but I had so many more questions after I read the book that I wanted to now ask you, having been inspired by those pieces of information. So I'm going to ask you some information that I had learned from having talked to them and read the book. that apparently there was a story once upon a time that Saavik was going to be part Romulan. That was a thing that they were having discussion about. Was that anything that reached you, and did that ever impact how you thought about the character?
It did not, Jeff. For whatever reason, uh, that idea was not articulated to me. That kind of inner life or world of a character wasn't revealed to me, and excuse me, I must tell you, I deliberately didn't do any research because I sincerely believed, especially given that the part had been played prior to my coming on board, that if I had done research and if I had come to some conclusions on my own, I might not have been as malleable
Mm,
and impressionable by Leonard that I needed to be.
mm,
He reassured me the first day of the shoot, or when I started working. I said to him, Mr. Nimoy, you seem to think I know what I'm doing, and I do not.
yeah.
And he promised he would take me every step of the way, and I think that proved for him and for me to be the best approach. It worked
Mm,
for us. For another actor, perhaps the way he directed me might have been, I don't know, as much as insulting or offensive,
mm,
when somebody tells you exactly how to say a line, and
mm,
they're, it's almost as if you're the violin and they're playing, and they're the bow and they're playing you.
yeah.
But I encouraged it. I asked for it. And I was grateful for that tack
Mm,
with him. So no, this idea that she had some inner, you know, Romulan, uh, whatever, pull or whatever source driving her, just was never revealed to me as a
mm.
character conflict.
Now, one of the unsung heroes that they mentioned, and I want to ask you about her because she sounds fascinating. They mentioned an individual, a real life individual called Teresa E. Victor,
Oh
and
yes.
they mentioned that she was an important person in helping you and also Stephen Manley prepare for parts stuff like that. Can you kind
Yeah.
of break down who she was and how she helped you in preparation for your audition and everything else?
Well, so when I showed up to Paramount that day, I had literally been there the day before to meet Stuart Jensen and Elza Bergeron. I had met Elza Bergeron almost a year plus prior, on a general interview. And bless her heart, she remembered me when the breakdown for the Star Trek 3, the film, and the various characters and types that they needed to cast came across her desk. She remembered me, and of course that's what you hope might happen a year plus later after you've met someone. And so over I trot to meet Stuart Jensen and Elsa. And I remember they were being very mysterious, Jeff, because at the time they couldn't say what it was that they were casting. It was all very secretive. And uh, and I remember saying offhandedly, because I really felt this way. Oh gosh, I said, if I was ever to be a part of this world, this science fiction genre, I would want to play an alien. I would hope to God that the part would be that of an alien. And what they didn't know, and the part of that sentence I didn't finish with them, was that because to play a human in these preposterous situations would be too far a leap for my little acting soul to take. You know what I'm saying? I remember, this is a total aside, but I remember getting a call back for a Dina De Laurentiis film about King Kong.
Yeah.
And I said to my manager, I can't do it. I can't do it. And he said, why? And I said, because the story is about Kong in some gymnasium and Lady Kong in another. And they're yearning for each other. And one of them needs a heart transplant. And I think the part that I auditioned for that they wanted me back for was the part that Linda Hamilton got. And I said, I just can't take it seriously. I said, that is not in my, resume to take that seriously. I couldn't do it. So I did remember saying that offhandedly, and then lo and behold, I go back and I meet Leonard the next day, and this was a huge leap because typically you go back you'll read some sides with the
Mm.
casting people, and then if you go back again, maybe you'll get to meet somebody else that's connected to the film. You don't very often meet the director, especially A-list Hollywood person. And so anyway, it was just unusual that I was there and it was just the two of us and it was so unthreatening, so unintimidating. And Teresa Victor was his assistant. She was the person outside his office. And when he sent me out to look at sides, meaning the scenes that he wanted me to read with him, he had asked me, would you be willing? And I said, of course I would. And so there I was in the outer office kind of going, oh, and he had said to me, the Vulcan has 1,000 years of wisdom behind the eyes. And I thought, oh, well, that's a tall order, but perhaps I can pull it off. And I didn't know who these characters were to one another really. So Teresa Victor was there encouraging, and I asked her questions, and it's a thing, Jeff, when you go out to look at the sides, the scenes, you don't want to be out there too long because then they're going to expect Shakespeare. Do you know what I mean? But you want to be out there long enough that you bring something back into the room
Right.
without making a fool of yourself. So it was that one of those things where it's like, I don't want to be out here too long or he's going to expect me to have it memorized. And a full final dress rehearsal performance. And so anyway, so Teresa was a support spirit in that room with me, waiting to go back in. I go back in, and he put it on tape. This was the other thing that was unusual. He filmed it, the old VHS
Yeah.
films back in the day, or maybe it was, I don't know what medium it was, but he filmed it so I didn't have to go back
Mm.
again and again and again. That was it. I never saw any of them again until I went back for the screen test. And I was told then that it was just a formality. It
Mm.
was really, we were making it look like I was being weighed against a couple of other women, but that really, unless I fell flat on my face, they would cast me. And that's when I met Merritt Butrick. And he was lovely. He was lovely. Everything you want another actor to be:
Mm.
generous, sensitive, respectful, paying attention to you, giving you what you need to do the scene. You can tell when an actor is making themselves available to you and letting you into their space. Because what's happening, acting, you don't act in a bubble. You don't put two stick figures on a chalkboard and draw circles around them. The circle is around the two of them, and it's
Mm.
about what's happening in the air between them. And so Merritt was one of those actors that was giving me that electrical, current between us. And that was so lovely.
It's kind of funny in my head for some reason. As you described it, I kind of pictured a Venn diagram. One person over here, one person here, and in the center is where the acting happens.
Yes, it's true, Jeff. That's exactly right. That's where you want the energy to be
Yeah.
between. Yeah, you can. Yeah, yeah,
So the interesting thing is when you're talking about size, right? I mean, the thing it's kind of strange from our perspective looking back 40 years, and for us, and I mean, I'm 45, so when the movie came out, I was already, I think, a couple of years old, but I didn't want to watch it until years later.
yeah,
But from my perspective, Spock has always been the search of Spock was always about bringing back Spock back to life, blah blah blah. It was just something that you just it's just part of the story.
yeah.
But sorry to use the term, back then, when this before the movie came out, that was a big mystery. What was this movie going to be about? Was Spock going to return? All that whole thing. So the sides, I imagine, couldn't be that direct with you about what the actual plot was going to be. What were the sides like that you actually were given? Were they actually script sides, like you actually part of the movie, or were they something totally?
Correct. No, no, no. They were actual pages from the film, and I think we may have done some of the scenes early in the movie where we're on the ship before we get to Genesis, and I think we may have done a couple of scenes on Genesis. But nothing intense. I didn't do the confrontation scene.
Hmm.
So, like your father, you you went against the rules. You introduced protomatter to the makeup of the planet. Uh but yeah, no, they were pages from the script. And I didn't have them. Obviously, I didn't have them the night before. I was given them in his office, and then I gave them back when I left. So, yeah.
And you knew you were playing Saavik, and were you familiar with Ali Saavik before? Did you know you were playing the same character at that moment, and did that impact you?
I didn't know anything about Saavik before that moment. I hadn't seen Star Trek 2, and then I deliberately, before we started shooting, did not see Star Trek 2. And it's a good thing I did, really, because their collaboration really was quite different than Leonard's and mine. And so
Hmm.
I might have struggled a little bit in the beginning. Uh 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 you know, Actors care about the integrity of a character
Hmm.
very much. And so I might have felt conflicted if Leonard's telling me to do one thing and I felt like I witnessed another thing in the previous movie. Uh and I'm also very impressionable. It's hard sometimes if somebody's got a certain way of talking, mannerisms, whatever it may be, Jeff. Sometimes it's hard to get them out of your head,
Hmm.
and without realizing it, you're imitating them or you're
Hmm.
mimicking them in some way. And I was worried about that, knowing how susceptible I might be to that, you know.
Well, the one thing seems true of Vulcans, and I think one of the reasons why I like your interpretation far better than Miss Allie's, is that to me Vulcans are all about subtlety in their performance, right? Little moments, little facial expressions, because as people know about Vulcans are about logic. The emotions exist, but they're pushed down so deep that they're not supposed to be showing, but they do. And I
Right.
feel like you hit subtleties in your acting better than what I was seeing from the other performance, right? And two, oh, go ahead.
No, 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 thank you. I'm just thank you. Carry on.
Well, the two moments that I was going to hold this for a question for later because it's kind of out of order, but I'm going to ask it now because it's in my head. There's two scenes when you get back to Vulcan, right?
Yeah.
After you bring Spock all the way back to Vulcan, there's two moments that you have as a character that to me, I think I actually had to watch it. I've seen the movie enough time, but I never noticed how good those moments were until I saw them just recently again. But the
Oh,
moment where the transformance is happening, the Contra is being moved back from Spock, McCoy to Spock, and they show you, well, Saavik, you as Saavik, not you, obviously. Separate the person from the act from the character. Um, where you're kind of you're closing your eyes, you're kind of with your head kind of tilted down, and I'm thinking like, are you at the character? Are you thinking that you're praying? Are you thinking that you're is that part of because of the moment and the importance of this ritual? How did you envision your moments like that right then? There's also another moment as well that I'm going to just hit on briefly. Well, Spock is back and he's walking past you, and interestingly enough, you guys don't talk to each other. He looks at you and you look down. You kind of like instead of like saying anything to you, your character kind of just looks like away from him. And I kind of want to hit on those two moments. To me, they're just fascinating because they're brief, but there's so much in there that is the subtlety, the under, the subtext that I really want to hit on. If you don't mind, if you can
oh, of
remember.
course. I don't mind at all. I think we were all, both as our characters and as actors, struck by Dame Judith Henderson's
Mm,
performance of the ritual. Do you know what I mean? And the brevity of it. And I like to think, I'm trying to remember now, do you know that as the character of Saavik, at that time I would have been feeling just great reverence and solemnity and a profound connection to my culture, and of course the great wish, the great hope that the ritual succeeded,
mm.
that Spock had been restored. uh and certainly I felt, very connected to his being, after what we'd experienced with one another. And so that's the first, I think, moment, if you will. And then you ask about, Spock. I believe, going down the line, and he steps in front of each of us. And before we shot the scene, Leonard had come up to me, and I remember, Jeff, he was standing right in front of me, like right tight in my space type of thing, but in a good way, and speaking very, privately with me. He said, Robin, he said, I want you to think about how you would feel if you were to encounter someone with whom you had a great love and intimacy with, um, uh, and you suddenly encounter them again on the street. And I remember Jeff thinking, he said what he said to me, and his head was right here, like his voice was in my ear. And I remember stepping back and thinking, oh God, what a personal question. And I look at him like, I want to, I want to tell you, but it's so big. And then I looked down, and he said, that's it. That's what I want. And I'm like, oh my God.
Awesome.
So in other words, he didn't direct me. He tricked me, or in the most clever,
Right.
loving way, to the moment. For him, the truth of the moment,
Mm.
that she was beholding someone so to whom she was so deeply connected, and hoping he was still there, but oh dear, it's almost too much. It's almost too much to withstand, and so she looks away, because it's powerful, not because, you know what I'm saying? It's not because she's leaving him
Right.
in that moment. She's with him in that moment. And
I think it's made the complexity of the relationship between Saavik and Spock is really quite immense because on the one hand, because the second movie does exist, she knew the character revered Spock as one of the great Vulcans. However, in the third movie, you at one point are both acting as for a little while as the mother, and later on almost as a lover, as well as on a smaller scale. That's a
yeah.
very complex thing to try to capture in that one moment, but it felt like you did, and
Oh,
I think that was incredible.
thank you. Thank you. Well, I think that's what makes this past year, so year and a half, I should say, so mind-blowing for me, because Jules Urbach and Rod Roddenberry and the archives, Otoy and the Roddenberry, or the Roddenberry archives, together teamed up and gave all of that a lasting um presence.
Mhm.
They memorialized it for all time. Spock and Saavik and Spock's son. And again, in a matter of seconds, all of this is established in this history. And they gave Saavik a full life,
Mhm.
because it was kind of sad at the time. But that's life. That the franchise moves on, and the storytelling goes in a different direction, and they don't need you anymore.
Mhm.
They choose not to shine the light on that character and on that storyline, and I know a lot of people at the time, Jeff, felt like, oh my God, you're going to leave the possibility that Saavik is having Spock's child right there
I heard that.
on the cutting room floor. I mean, it wasn't even on the cutting room floor; it hadn't been shot, but
Right.
the possibility of it had been written. It had never been shot, and it got dropped. But that's Hollywood, baby.
Right.
That's showbiz, and that's okay. But all these years, 4 decades later, along comes a genius with integrity, Jules. I just love him to death, and Carlos Baena, the director, and the cast, Sam Witwer and Lawrence Selleck. I mean, come on, these dudes are so freaking talented, and they gave Saavik this life, and then to have Mary Jo and John interview me, right? And I get to be the forward in the book. It was like, I don't know. I was like, ding, 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 ding. Boy, this is my year. This is my year. This is my fabulous year with Star Trek. I can die happy now. Do you know? And I hate to plug something, but I will. This would make a great Christmas present. The Akutas, Michael and Denise, they said on, I think it was Facebook or maybe their Subspace page, something somewhere, that it's one thing to be able to stream the things you love, but it's better to own it. If
Mm.
you love it, you want to own it. And so I cannot encourage people enough. I bought four and I'm giving them for Christmas the book, that is The Making of Star Trek 3. Gave one to my older brother's family and my younger brother's family, and then I'm giving them to the sons, to the
Very
children.
cool.
So their households have it, if you will. It's a beautiful book. The artwork is stunning.
Mm.
After all these years, it's just beautiful. They did a remarkable job,
Mm.
and I'm really pleased and proud to be a small part of it. And anyway, I sorry, I'm just putting it out there. Give that damn book for Christmas.
Will do. Yeah, it's kind of funny. The scene kind of struck me as funny and tragic at the same time, just because of the way it worked out. So, in the scene we're talking about, obviously we talk about Spock and how he sees you, right? And he walks past McCoy, who he shared the Contra with. He walked past all these guys, and he talks to Kirk, and Kirk's the one he talks to. I was like, but Saavik was caring for you for like this entire. How is she not the one you talk to? McCoy, at the very least, carried your brain. Why is Kirk the one here stopping to say like
I
you're my friend?
know. It's a bromance. It's always a bromance in the end, you know? Well, that film and then Star Trek 4, taught me or reminded me that there's only so much room in the story.
Yeah.
And every second on film is so valuable. It has to be telling you something. And certainly, the friendship between Bill and Leonard, Kirk and Spock is really is significant,
Mm.
and means so much to anybody who loves Star Trek. And that's another thing that Jules did. He and Carlos and Rod, they and Leo, the freaking DP, so freaking good. Uh uh this was an homage to them, to their
Mm.
friendship, to this romance. And that was really special. That was really so, sometimes it's better on film than it is in real life.
Well, I mean, as far as the Saavik Spock relationship goes, right? We have the look, right, from Star Trek 3. Then there's that quick moment in Star Trek 4 where you're basically saying goodbye and you separate, right?
Yeah,
I can't imagine I'm the only one who felt like there was a scene missing where Saavik and Spock really do talk about the relationship of coming out of Star Trek 3, which
yeah,
was significant, especially as the assumption is from out of that moment, from the Pon farr moment, that's when she becomes pregnant, somewhere along those lines. Or yeah, because before he becomes the 21-year-old Spock, that scene had already had to have happened.
right.
Do you feel like there was a missing moment that should have been there, and what should have been said in those moments? Do you think?
You know what, Jeff, forgive me, but I can't create dialogue on demand. I can't do it. I can't
Yeah,
put words in Spock's mouth or Savik's mouth. Um, do you know, I don't know that could have been buttoned up satisfactorily
mm,
with any particular words. She says, "May your journey be free of incident." Is there hidden meaning there? I don't think so. I don't,
yeah,
I mean, come on. That's a reach.
right,
What did he say to me? I don't even remember. Um, that was left to be, I thought, retapped and then wasn't.
right,
But you wait enough years and suddenly it's just gold coming out of the spigot,
yeah,
because I feel like that's what Jules in his storytelling gave those characters.
mm,
He gave them a life, he gave them a beautiful life, a rich, meaningful, relationship, a son, it just who knows. I
Yeah.
wish somebody would I wish somebody maybe would flesh that out
Yeah.
perhaps on film. Wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah, I think that'd be awesome. I feel like, I mean, I think Saavik was such a cool character, and I mean, one of the rumors that I heard, I'm glad they didn't do it, was that Star Trek Six originally the Lieutenant Valera's character was supposed to
Yeah,
be Lieutenant Saavik, and I'm glad they didn't do that. That would have screwed her up. I think that would screwed her character up bad. But I
yeah.
think myself though, as the actress though, would you have liked to have been in the movie and played that, or were you thinking, I'm glad I didn't because that character would have been probably ruined by having that scene?
I have to be honest, it's hard for me to be objective about it. It really is.
Yeah,
It hurt a great deal at the time that because the what was communicated to me was that the studio was looking for Saavik yet again,
yeah.
and nobody had even talked with me.
Mm.
I couldn't assume one way or another what had been where Kirsty stood on the whole situation, but clearly she wasn't willing to play Saavik, and they hadn't talked to me. So it's almost like they wanted anybody but me,
Mm.
to play the part. And I thought that this was some great dislike of me by Nicholas Meyer all these years. I thought, oh, he must not have a lot of respect for me
Mm.
and my abilities. And I but after a while, Jeff, you just don't you stop thinking about it. You know what I mean? It's so things that are out of your control, I learned a long time ago to let go of.
Yeah.
But generally I just thought, wow, uh, clearly this is not for me. And then they did change the name of the character. But what I learned from Mary Jo and John is that the character was changed much earlier in time
Yeah.
and remained Saavik on the call sheets. Even once they started shooting, Valeris remained Saavik
Right.
on the call sheet, which is cray cray in a way. Like why would somebody be so so sloppy?
Right.
With the documentation of the film going forward, the either the scripts and the call sheets, etc. But they had long before then changed the character, and I believe this was under and maybe the Tenutos can help me with this. That was based on Gene's position. Like, look, buddy, either get one of the actresses who've already played this part to play it, or change it, please.
Right. But the thing is, like, I thought to myself is, um, Valeris turns out to be a traitor. She betrays Spock. She betrays
Yeah,
the Federation.
yeah,
If they had kept it the way they thought about originally, which would have been Saavik, that would have been awful. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Like you would that I mean, not only would it feel out of character, I think, for Saavik, but as a
yeah,
fan, I think that would just pissed us off. I mean,
yeah.
that's
I
my
think
point.
you're
Like, part of me
right.
thinking, I understand as an actor wanting that part, but at the same time, if you had done it, the character would have been ruined because they would have made her a traitor, which would have ruined three and four completely. Well, four she's only, but mostly three would have been ruined
Yeah.
completely because you ruined what was one of the best characters to come out of Star Trek. At least in my opinion. I don't know how you felt about that.
Oh, no, no, no. I agree in the end. I think really the people who had a much greater knowledge of the breadth of Star Trek and Saavik too, explained to me that just would have been such a betrayal of what had been established. And I was like, okay, I'm good with that. We'll stand
Yeah.
on the side of it's a good thing it wasn't Saavik.
Well, I imagine so because, like I said, especially, I mean, she would have betrayed Spock, especially after she had Spock's baby, she had all that relationship, almost re-raised Spock. To then be the one who betrayed that, oh, that would have been horrible. That would have been like the
Yeah,
worst knife wound possible.
I agree. Bad things would have happened to me afterward.
You would have got some hate mail, which the people would obviously would have unnecessarily directed their anger at you. but but like I'm glad that didn't happen. Well, but at the same time, it'd be nice. Oh, I would love to have seen Saavik back in Star Trek, but not as that character. That would have been to me. That would have been wrong.
Yeah.
Um, one of the interviews I got to do recently as well, which I was I enjoyed a lot. I interviewed Stephen Manley, as you know, as the
Yes.
10-year-old Spock, which was one of my pleasures to talk to him as well. And he shared some stories also about you because you shared your scenes with him. And one of the stories he told me was that during between scenes, you would go up to Leonard Nimoy, you would have your smoke your cigarettes, discuss the scene, and you said like once the cigarettes were done, you got up, you were like totally confident, like I got this, I know what I'm doing. can you kind of flesh out what some of those conversations would be like with Leonard when you were between scenes trying to figure out what you wanted to do for that moment?
Gosh, it's interesting. Stephen remembers me smoking with Leonard because you couldn't smoke in the soundstage.
Okay.
And I remember I would have to go outside to do that. I smoked clove cigarettes back then. And
They say
and
that.
Leonard would typically have these conversations with me right there on set. Like, but we would go off to the edge, when the lighting people and the grips and the best boys and the what, they're all doing what they're supposed to do. Typically you set up the shot and then they have to work on it for like an hour and you have all that time to prepare and get ready to shoot it. And he just would typically sit with me and have me say the lines. And then it was like I was a woofer or a tweeter or whatever, the receiver. And he would play with the knobs, more treble, less bass, blah blah blah. Seriously, like, he'd say drier, drier, don't breathe. He'd say, don't breathe there. Don't. I'm like, okay. Because, sometimes a breath, even just a catch breath, can convey emotion.
Hmm.
And so I would sometimes try to sneak a little something in, and he always caught it. So I can't, we did not have like, deep conversation about the meaning of life.
Right.
This was all about Saavik and the moment and the lines, really. And so I'm sorry that I can't, uh, uh, dazzle you with what those were at the time. But I can say that both Steve and I hope he shared this with you. We were pretty nervous about what this scene was,
All the
and
fun
and and
fire.
and, and again, because I didn't do any research
Yeah.
at the time, I didn't know what Vulcan foreplay would be. I didn't know what Ponfar was. And in fact, I didn't think we had done Ponfar with this. I thought
Yeah.
that was the beginning. And then more stuff happens, but the camera left us alone.
Yeah.
So my point is, I still to this day, I'm not clear on what Ponfar is. But it begins with the finger play. And neither Stephen or I had any idea that that's how we would do it. We came
Right.
into work that day to shoot that scene, and the two of us were like, "Oh boy, what is it going to be? What body parts will be touching other body parts, and how frequently, and in what rhythm, and etc." And it ended up being what you saw, which was lovely and simple.
Yeah.
And I think the two of us, I get Stephen was like Merritt in that he greatly respected the process. He greatly respected our willingness to be there with each other in the moment and present with each other. And so he and I agreed, we need to imbue this with as much um, um, uh, seriousness and respect for what it is that we can,
Hmm.
really just with the intimacy that he and I may understand as something else entirely. Do you
Hmm.
know, maybe for Steve, intimacy is holding hands, or it's hugging, or it's kissing, whatever it is. We agreed we would give that gesture that kind of weight. And do you know, it's like it feels very adult in an interesting way. And uh um um and neither one of us, you think, oh, I'm going to giggle, this makes me feel silly, but it didn't make us feel silly, thank goodness. Neither one of us felt silly,
Hmm.
or that there was anything there to laugh at or poke fun of.
Hmm.
uh it was like, okay, okay, this is it, this is what it is, and we're gonna do this like our lives depend on it.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
And I remember talking when the issues I had with Stephen Manley, he talked about one thing that is because he was a 17-year-old boy at the time, or about that age, that he kind of viewed you as being the more experienced actor. You're in your 20s, and you on haven't talked to you before will say that you were a newer actor on the set of people who had been doing it like Shatner and all them for years.
Yes.
Did it feel different being the juxtaposition of now you feeling like you're the more experienced, wiser actor compared to what Steven was at that moment working
Oh,
together?
that's interesting you say that. Well, I never looked at it that way, but without even thinking about it, you're right about that. I was extremely nurturing and protective of the young actors.
Mm,
That's kind of my way anyway. And I felt that same nurturing and protection from the supporting cast. They
mm,
were all, each in their own way, so dear.
mm,
And I'm not exaggerating. Walter, Jimmy, George, Nichelle, Dee, Walter. I said Walter, Jimmy, George. Yeah, I think I got them all. They're such good human beings. And they knew I was feeling the pressure. uh I remember Walter told me keep a diary. Of course, I regret that I didn't. It's like there's too much going on. There's no way I can keep a diary. Uh, 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 but I wish I had.
mm.
I didn't understand how this experience would play out. 42 years later here.
Right.
Mm. Uh, yeah, they were just really kind people,
Mm.
and I hope I extended that kind of care to all the Spocks.
Well, so the other one with again working with that the scene with Spock with the pond first, which like I said, as you mentioned, um Steve was talking about how one thing that he improvised as well was like grabbing your hand in the role when you were doing the hand thing, he kind of like grabs you with his other hand. How much of that those scenes were planned? How much was ad-libbed in the moment? And what kind of guidance did you have to give him to help making the scene comfortable for everybody?
I feel like I've kind of touched on that. He and I really just wanted to uh, give that simple hand gesture the weight that it deserved. Um, and there was you don't ad lib.
Okay.
I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like that was not encouraged.
Okay.
Even the young Spock touching my nose, Leonard told him to do that. Uh, so so those intimate moments were simply what Leonard choreographed,
Mm,
and then what Stephen and I attempted to bring to it, from our own hearts.
mm,
Uh, uh, yeah, the winging it thing, that just wasn't,
mm.
that, that didn't happen. It's interesting you asked that because, that might be something that's very natural on another set.
Mm.
You didn't wing it on this set. Mm-mm-mm. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
like it was choreographed exactly the way it needed to go.
Now, one thing that's kind of, I want to go back just a little bit to when the conferences you would have with Leonard Nimoy. Okay. Um, See, Leonard Nimoy has an interesting perspective in talking with you. He's the director, he's a fellow actor, and he's also the original Spock, who's the first, the Vulcan, the original Vulcan that we all aware. So in
Mhm.
these conferences, did you feel more like an actor to an actor, the mentor Vulcan, actor helping the new version of a Vulcan talking, or was he just directly the director talking to his actor?
Kind of all in one, to be honest.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like I didn't have to question uh uh the technicality of a direction he might give me,
Mm,
or the disarmament that I was explaining to you that he did by asking me that question. Do you know, I appreciated that I had the benefit of receiving guidance from all those
mm,
points of view, actor to actor, director to actor, Vulcan to Vulcan. So so he didn't put on one hat and then take off that and put another on.
mm.
The dude was bringing all of it all the time. Yeah, but that's an interesting question. I don't remember, three personalities. It's like it was all one, and I have to say I just trusted him completely.
Hmm.
I trusted him completely. I sincerely thought I would be fired. Like during the first 2 weeks, I
Really?
thought I'm going to get a pink slip. I can't possibly be doing this right
Yeah.
because it didn't feel right. It didn't feel natural. And that's my problem. That's a Robin problem because I'm not used to repressing myself.
Hmm.
You're taught the exact opposite
Yeah.
in acting, and I didn't need to be taught expression because I'm emoting from every orifice all the time. You know what I mean? I'm one of those people who's quite facile with my emotions. So 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 reining that in
Hmm.
was so hard, and it felt so fake. I felt like a phony. I really did. And I'm not saying that to have you compliment me or to reassure me. It's way too much time has gone, by.
Right.
It's not about that. I'm just telling you honestly, I I don't know that I felt secure in the genre till I worked on The Next Generation.
Hmm.
And that's when I started to feel like I had a little confidence, a little moxie there to bring to the whole thing because I was used to it. It's like, oh, I'm familiar with this bearing. I'm familiar with this acting style. In Star Trek, you don't mumble and you don't speak quickly the way I do in real life. You
Hmm.
don't stutter. I stutter in real life because I can't, my mind is going so fast that my mouth can't keep up.
Yeah.
I mean, all these things that I do in my real life, don't happen in the Star Trek world. You don't move quickly in the Star Trek world. You move in a very calculated, measured fashion. Do you know what I'm saying? Like it's
Yeah.
a whole different deal.
Well, as a quick talking stutterer myself, I totally appreciate
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, right?
And
Yeah.
but like I said, I mean, and I know you said you're not a fisher for compliment, but I think that was the reason why it worked because once again, you had the sense of the veneer of logic and seriousness, but all the emotions are subtle, which is why it works. And I think one line that really very interesting, and like I said, there's so much richness in those lines, even though they're subtle. There's the line that you mentioned earlier when you're talking to David, right? And you're like, much like your father, when things didn't work, you change the rules. When you're thinking about that line, are you thinking she is saying it out of curiosity, a statement? Is she saying it as a almost a reprimand? Like can't believe you did something like this. How do you think she felt about David in that for that moment?
Oh, I think she felt a loss of faith.
Hmm.
We're colleagues. We both work hard. We have a mutual respect. And what did you do? You you made a decision and betrayed the experiment?
Hmm.
And it's like, ah, how do you live with yourself?
Hmm.
How could you do this? Um, yeah, what is yet to come, you know? Uh, so I think at the time I played it kind of from all those points of view, but both from a scientific uh, matter of fact point of view, to a very deeply troubling, um, you've done this really, really bad thing,
Hmm.
and that just simply doesn't compute. I don't know how, you know, you know what I mean? This just wasn't what she imagined from
I, I
him.
I think what I really like about the movie, when you more you think about it, for most of the movie, Saavik is the only adult in the room. You have David who screws around, Spock who's obviously a kid, a bunch of jackass Klingons. Kirk stealing ships, and Saavik being the
Oh,
adult in the room doing the right thing, trying to fix everyone's screw up by getting Spock out
I've
alive.
never heard that before. That's interesting. She's the only adult in the room. That's interesting. Yeah.
That just struck me as like she's like the only one who seems like who has her shit together. Everyone else is on some way messing up this whole or causing a whole bunch of chaos, and she's like trying to keep things from going, from exploding.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh gosh.
Which I thought that was great. And like I said, I think, and one thing I mentioned, I think to Stephen Manley and actually Tenuto's, I really feel like Star Trek 3, of all the Star Trek movies, Star Trek 3 is the one I think that has aged, it has gotten the most appreciation over the years as time has gone on. That people
Oh,
realizing it is not only part of the trilogy, but an important part of that trilogy of Star 2, 3, and 4 is that, which is kind of like the Star Trek trilogy, right? That 1, 2, 3, and 4. And
yeah.
I think it really has gotten greater appreciation. It's been viewed as a far better film than it might have before. So, when you think back of the movie, how do you think? I mean, does it make you? How does it make you feel to know the movie maybe is even embraced even more now, maybe than even was 30 years ago, 40 years ago?
Honestly, Jeff, I don't think that way. I don't think, bigger picture, what stood the test of time? How does it compare amongst the canon, the whole thing? I don't. I I remember thinking it was very serious.
Mm,
Everything dies. The planet dies, the Enterprise dies, it's the David dies, Spock is dead, but then he comes back. A lot of death. And then I watched it, and I can't put this in time for you, but let's just say within the last 5 years, and maybe 5 or 6 years, and realized, oh, it's got a lot of humor in it.
mm,
It's got a lot of humor, and it's a much more well-rounded movie than I thought
mm,
when I was shooting it. And maybe that's because, as I said to you, I was so serious. And the difference, I will say, in the mood on the set was dramatically, improved on four. Four was very buoyant and playful, and Star Trek 3 was not. And
mm,
maybe that was out of respect for Leonard and to give him, the space and focus that he needed as a first time director. I don't know. I don't know. I don't like to guess these things. I'm just saying from my own perspective. I remembered it as a really, somber movie, and it turns out it's very well rounded.
mm,
I'm happy about that. I'm happy that there's some humor, because I think that's one of the best things about Star Trek is that when they do tell stories, they tell them with the appreciation of each character to the other is always a part of the story. The love of brother and sister type of thing,
mm,
humanity, and but also with humor, along with the seriousness of the plot. There's a comic aspect, and all of the actors, whether it's the new genre, the new iteration of them, or the old original, they all had a gift for comedy. I thought, I mean, Bill and Leonard right up there at the top, and
right.
the whole supporting cast, very funny people when they
Yeah,
wanted to be. And then that was one of the lovely things about working with them, Jeff, because they knew their shit.
mm,
Jimmy Doohan didn't go to work every day and go, I wonder what Scotty would do
right.
in this situation, or how he would say this line. They embodied their characters.
Mm.
It was like turning the page for them. It's so simple, pass the mayonnaise, whatever. But for me, it was like, what the fuck is Saavik? What is Saavik? Oh, Jesus Christ. I just felt so constipated. So anyway, yeah, super people, and that's kind of how I look back on it.
Mm. Like I said, I really love the movie, and if you don't mind, I'm going to pivot just slightly to a different topic.
Sure.
There's a movie that I saw a trailer of just recently, which is one of the reasons I also wanted to reach out to you, called Awaken the Reaper.
Yes.
Which the thing, my question on that, I saw the trailer, a new trailer had come out about it about 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Okay.
But it said it came out in 2024, but it's not, as far as I know, out. It's not out yet, correct? It's
Right.
on the
Right.
way
Correct.
to come in to be released. Is that correct?
Dave Campfield, it's a very personal story. He wrote it, he directed it, acted in it. Wonderful cast, amazing crew. Shot it about a year and a half ago. I went off to work with this, little crackerjack team
Yeah.
and didn't really know what to expect. And boy, they knew what they were doing, in my opinion.
Right.
And I was really proud to work with them, both the cast and the David as a director, his cinematographer, even the makeup people and the wardrobe and stuff. These people were I can't believe how much they accomplished with so little, with
Mm.
so little. And so I went away from the whole working experience very impressed and really crossing my fingers, that he continued to find the funding to keep shooting to actually finish the darn thing. Excuse me. And I think he's finally there. I think
Good.
he's finally come to a final edit. I think also I do understand that the film was very long and he's cut almost a third of it to get it to a proper size. And so I'm wondering, as much as I had so many, I had like 12 scenes. I'm having a feeling, Jeff, I'm going to see a film without as much of me in it. But
Well,
again, the story is the most important thing, not me. Not, I just was tickled to work and for Dave to have asked me to do the
right.
part. I so enjoyed working again. And of course it was oh goodness. Well, Lance Henriksen is in it, but
Yep. Louis Gossett Jr.
thank you. It was his last film.
Oh, seriously.
Yeah, before he died.
Oh, wow.
So that's particularly touching. Um, yeah, Dave Campfield is he's a shrewd guy, to have reached out to them and to me, and he approached us in a very, very humble way. He wrote me an email and said he thought I would be right for this part, and I said, "Well, send me the script, young man." And I read it and I thought, this is good. And I like the part that I would play. It is in the horror genre. And I didn't want to be a part of anything that was particularly gory or to be chased by monsters or anything like that. And it's not like that. It's psychological.
Yeah.
It's a psychological, scary movie. And so anyway, I had a lot of fun doing it, and I think it should be out soon. We'll see. I don't even know how movies come out anymore. Jeff, is it going to be streamed? Is it
Right.
crawling on its legs to where? I don't know. I don't know how
Well,
this
well,
all
having
works.
having seen the trailer, you're featured multiple times in the trailer.
Oh,
You're one of the three names I believe that they pop up and say you're in the movie.
oh,
So I
good.
imagine they're keeping you in as quite a significant character because they show you multiple times in the film. In
Yeah.
the trailer, you show up multiple times, and you're one of the names that pop up with like the big print
Okay.
with Robin Curtis. So I imagine you're pretty important. At least they're going to stay in the film. And so you play the character Connie. So what can you tell us about Connie?
Oh, I know. You know what? I don't want to
Okay.
go into any detail about the film. It's not even out yet. But she's a psychiatric nurse, right? And she's a neighbor to the leading character, who a young man who's suffering from some psychological issues. And so not only is she got proximity to him as a neighbor, but she also has the benefit of being a psychiatric nurse, and so understands that something may be going on. And I'll leave you with that.
Well, can you answer this one more question?
Sure.
Having once again, this is going from Star Trek 3, which is 40
Hmm.
years ago, to now uh one more time, Awaken the Reaper. As an actor, how have you felt that you have developed going from what you did in this with being in this movie to when you remember yourself as Saavik in Search for Spock?
Oh, goodness gracious. It's yeah, well, first of all, I'm not in the business anymore. Like, I'm not out there auditioning, constantly putting myself on the line to try and get a job and not getting them. I'm a full-time real estate agent in Central New York. Um, I'm with the Hunt Real Estate office in Manlius. If you need to buy or sell a home, give me a call. Uh, and so to have been asked to come out of the ether to play again in my old sandbox was a lot of fun.
Hmm.
And I enjoyed it enormously. I tell you, I've gotten, as I've gotten older, I have stage fright. I have pretty severe nervousness about performing. And again, it was the other actors uh, on that job that took the stuffing out of my anxiety and my fears, my stage fright, and allowed me to relax.
Mm.
So it is amazing, the attitude of an actor that you're working with and the way they avail themselves to you and connect to you that grounds you. It grounds
Mm.
you, it makes you confident. And the people that I worked with on Awaken the Reaper were those kinds of professionals. Really wonderful, wonderful human beings. And by the way, I did another movie recently that came to me via the Star Trek world. A young lady by the name of Fran DeMeo wrote a script with another professional in the business. His name is Ivo Raza, and he directed the film. And it just recently shot in LA, and it will come out. It will be out, and that was a lot of fun. It was
The
just a 1 day
subscribers?
part. You can look it up. It's called The Subscriber. A fabulous kind of crime caper. A lot of fun. A lot of fun. I did just a 1 day part, but it was fun. I enjoyed it. I got to go out to LA and see old friends, and so that should be coming down the pike very soon. They only finished shooting like 5, 6 weeks ago.
Yeah,
So
like I said, I was looking at it and I saw the movie too because some one of the actors, one again, Spencer Garrett was on my show as well some years
okay,
back. So I was like, oh wow, okay. So yeah, so you have two movies coming out. Are you thinking about now doing some more movies now that you've been in these two just recently?
Jeff. If a Carlos Baena called me, if David Campfield called me, if the man I just worked with on subscription called me or subscriber, of course I would come out to play. But I'm
Great.
not I don't have an agent. I'm not out there looking. It is nice to be asked, and it's a privilege. Like I said, it's like getting, on a horse that you enjoyed riding at one time, and you did pretty well riding that horse, and it just feels nice. It feels nice to go back and be in that environment, that creative environment. Making films is such a team effort. And I'm all about team, whether it's a team sport or a team choir or a team cast. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
That whole concept in life is what gets me excited.
Hmm.
Working in community.
Well, hopefully, when Awaken the Reaper does make it to film or gets released, I hope I can talk to you about it at some point when it comes out because I would love to discuss your new movie with you. So if you don't mind, I might reach out once it's released.
You reach out. No, no problem, sweetheart.
That is awesome. And like I said, it's been an absolute honor to talk with you, Ms. Curtis. Like I said, this is one of the highlights of my podcasting. So I want to thank you so much.
You're welcome, and I wish you wonderful holidays, whatever you may celebrate over the coming days and weeks.
And you as well. Thank you so much.
All right, sweetheart. Thank you.